Today I'm going to take you inside the FDA's latest insights on drug shortage management and ask the tough questions. Can we trust pharmaceutical companies to self-report shortages? With Mounjaro and Zepbound possibly rejoining the official shortage list, these delays aren't just frustrating, they threaten the progress we fought to achieve. Stick with me and I'll show you how you can make your voice heard by reporting shortages directly to the FDA. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Christopher Durham, and we are the Downsized. If you're new here, my wife Lorraine and I have lost over 130 pounds using GLP-1s, Mounjaro, Zepbound, and compounded Tirzepatide. We started this adventure in September of 2023, and since then I've dropped more than 80 pounds. Along the way, Lorraine and I have faced plenty of challenges, including dealing with these medications' high prices, and of course shortages due to Eli Lilly's inability to keep these medications in stock. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Today we're taking a closer look inside the FDA's latest blog post about drug shortage management, because there's much more to this story than they're telling us. This week, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, posted a blog post called 7 Things to Know About Drug Shortage Management, which outlines how they manage drug shortages. At first glance, it seems like they've got everything under control, but for those of us struggling to get access to medications, Mounjaro, Zepbound, Ozempic, Wegovy, that have all been on shortage over the last few years, we know things aren't always as smooth as they claim. And of course, it feels a bit like they're trying to get in front of some sort of announcement, some sort of response to the Zepbound, Mounjaro, Tirzepatide shortage that is due back to the courts next week. So let's explore what's really going on here and what they're saying in this post. This shortage issue isn't just about Mounjaro and Zepbound. It also directly impacts the legal availability of compounded Tirzepatide, as we all know. Many of us, including Lorraine and I, rely on compounded alternatives when there's a shortage of brand name options. But compounded medications face regulatory limits. 503A pharmacies can only produce for individual patients with specific prescriptions, while 503B outsourcing facilities are under much tighter FDA oversight, can make in bulk if Mounjaro and Zepbound officially stay in shortages. Pharmacies may continue to legally offer compounded Tirzepatide to meet patient demand if it's still in a shortage. However, if the shortage is lifted, the FDA quickly clamps down on compounding, cutting off access to these alternatives and leaving many patients without affordable or available options to manage the disease of obesity and type 2 diabetes. Here are the 7 things you need to know about how the FDA's Center for Drug Evaluation and Research, or what they call the CDER, manages drug shortages. Number 1, the drug shortage staff, or what they call the DSS. Is it a proactive system? The FDA claims that their drug shortage staff, DSS, establishes and maintains a network of designated contacts within CDER to address drug availability issues comprehensively and proactively. They coordinate with other agencies such as the CDC and the Department of Defense. But despite these connections, many of us are still waiting for medications. If this system is as proactive as the FDA says, why do patients so often get blindsided by delays and shortages? And it's not just Zepbound and Mounjaro. Take a look at the shortage list. There's a lot of medications on it right now, critical to a lot of people's lives. Number 2, early notification from manufacturers. Where's the action? The FDA emphasizes that early notifications from manufacturers are critical to preventing and mitigating drug shortages. While that sounds reassuring, the reality is that these notifications don't seem to prevent the disruptions many of us experience. We've seen demand for GLP-1s skyrocket, and the production simply hasn't kept up. Even when the manufacturers notify the FDA, patients are left waiting, often without clear communication about when their prescriptions will arrive or when the shortages could potentially end. Number 3, a narrow definition of shortages. The FDA defines a shortage as occurring when the national supply available for a product within the U.S. is not adequate, and no other manufacturers can meet demand. But for those of us struggling to refill medications like Mounjaro or Zepbound, the situation feels like a shortage even if the FDA doesn't label it that way. When the FDA marked Mounjaro, Zepbound, Tirzepatide as resolved, so the shortage was over, they also added a caveat to it that basically said, there's all these other reasons that you might think it's in shortage, but it's really not. Cold chain, supplies from the pharmacy. There's a whole list of them that they've added to it. And honestly, it's just frustrating, and it just does not take into account the average American. The average American only honestly cares if they can walk into their drugstore and get their medication. Okay, maybe it's out of stock in one store and I have to call another store. But if I have to call the third store and the fourth store and the fifth store, and it happens over and over again, and the life-changing, life-saving drugs that I need to manage my disease of obesity are not something I can get, it's in shortage. I don't care about the logistics. That's an inside baseball problem. That is not a consumer problem. It's in shortage. This definition allows the FDA to keep certain medications off the official shortage list, even when patients are facing significant delays. Number 4. Withholding information or transparency issues. The FDA admits that the CDER does not post all drugs for which notifications have been received regarding discontinuance and interruption in manufacturing. This is to avoid hoarding of drugs and exacerbating supply chains. So they get a notification of a problem and they're like, we're going to keep it to ourselves because we're afraid you might go buy more. Transparent? I don't think so. While hoarding is a legitimate concern, withholding information leaves patients and healthcare providers in the dark. If Mounjaro or Zepbound make the shortage list, we need full transparency about what's happening, not vague updates that leave us guessing. Number 5, self-reporting by manufacturers. Can we trust it? The FDA relies heavily on pharmaceutical companies to self-report their supply status. As they say, all of the presentation information posted under the individual product shortages are provided by the manufacturer and can change daily. This raises a huge red flag. We're expected to trust that manufacturers will provide accurate updates, even when it might hurt their bottom line, even when it might hurt their share price. Self-reporting without independent oversight leaves too much room for manipulation. Number 6, limited authority. The FDA's hands are tied. The FDA acknowledges that it cannot require a pharmaceutical company to make a drug, make more of a drug, or change how much and to whom the drug is distributed. This leaves the power in the hands of the manufacturers who ultimately prioritize profitability over their patients. When demand exceeds supply, as we've seen with GLP-1s, companies make strategic decisions about where to allocate resources. Unfortunately, those decisions do not always benefit patients. Number 7, reporting shortages. The FDA wants to hear from you, but then what? The FDA encourages patients, healthcare providers, and organizations to report supply issues. They say, when FDA receives reports of new local supply disruptions, DSS contacts the manufacturers to confirm if their available supply will meet the national demand for the drug. So I go to the site, you go to the site, we punch in, it's not available in Charlotte, North Carolina, Boise, Idaho, you name it. And theoretically, at some point when that happens, the FDA says, hey, Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, do you have any of this drug? And they say, yeah, we're good. And the FDA believes them. While it's good that the FDA offers a way for us to report shortages, it's unclear how often these reports result in a meaningful action. Manufacturers still control the flow of information and decide how to respond. If you've experienced delays with your medications, I encourage you to report them to the FDA. I'll include a link in the description below where you can report a shortage directly to the FDA. Please do. If they do not have the information, they cannot act on it. This post from the FDA arrives at a critical moment. Many of us are waiting to see if Mounjaro, Zepbound, Tirzepatide will officially remain on the shortage list. Until then, we're left wondering whether we'll be able to get our prescriptions on time and what the impact will be on compounded Tirzepatide and telehealth. The uncertainty around these medications makes it hard to plan for our care. Makes it hard to treat our disease of obesity. It drives concern, outrage, fear. Hundreds of thousands of people rely on these medications on a weekly basis, and they need to take care of themselves. For those of us relying on GLP-1s to manage the disease of obesity, these delays aren't just inconvenient, they threaten to derail the progress we fought so hard to achieve. They threaten to impact our health. That's our look inside the FDA's post on drug shortage management. The system still has significant gaps, and patients deserve better. If medication delays or shortages have impacted you, don't forget to report them to the FDA using the link in the description. Transparency only works if we all speak up. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. We should have an update next week on the shortages, and let us know in the comments what's been your experience with the medication shortages. I'm Christopher Durham, and we are the Downsized.